Thank you, Sumit. Over to you.
Thank you, Pooja, for that. Thank you, gentlemen, for this. It's an important topic, the BFSI sector, my personal belief, but it's a very dry topic because people love money. We love talking about money. But if we talk to people about how to manage that money, it kind of, koi to sambhal lega, aana chahiye, that kind of stuff. So, Mr. Sandeep, I want to start with you on this because, especially when you're talking to people, when you're talking to them about money, and with you being in the retail broking space, and I'll take a little bit segue from my earlier panel, which was on AI. Because I'm sure that is one conversation that your team must be facing, where people will be like, listen, AI is my new money manager. Why do I need PL? What do you tell them that?
I think you've asked a lot of questions within that one single question. So let me sort of break it down into 2 or 3 pieces. First of all, I don't agree. Finance is not a dry topic at all. In fact, most of our conversations probably happen over beer. It's a very exciting place to be. Finance is the lifeblood of how people lead their lives, right? So if you look at money as an avenue to get to where you want, to fulfill your dreams,
I'm with you on that because that's why I'm here at ET now. But that was a general observation with people. But absolutely, please carry on, sir.
No, so as far as the entire aspect of how money is to be managed is concerned, I think we have evolved over a period of time. We are possibly at the beginning of what you call the AI revolution, right? What we're calling AI now is not really AI, in the sense that we are possibly doing repetitive processes, known processes, using maybe things like machine learning, etc. Indians are just about beginning to understand how robo-advisory works. So a little bit of the younger generation possibly is gravitating towards what I would call non-personal touch-based banking. AI is yet to evolve. I think the human element, especially in India, where relationships matter a lot, is extremely important, which is why you see even public sector banks doing very well. Traditional brokerage houses like ours doing very well. To face an uncertain world, remember that, by the way, I was reading a survey, 80% of Indians above the age of 45, 87%, are scared that they might not have retirement savings beyond 10 years when they retire. This, I think, is a massive, massive problem that's facing us. You need the human intellect to sort of overcome these challenges. In my mind, you need artificial as well as very, very real intelligence, at least in the near term.
All right, very important. Artificial and real intelligence. Mr. Subramaniam, similar question to you. You're managing people's money. Same question, I'm sure, and please do correct me if I'm wrong, that people must be coming to you as well, that why do you need fund managers? You've got AI which can, replicate it, manage my money, know when to sell, when to buy. Your thoughts?
Thank you, E.T. now for this opportunity to speak. First, just as he said, it's an exciting world. It's not at all a boring world, the world of finance. But to answer your question, I recall long back hearing Nandan Nilekani saying that in a high-tech world, you still need high touch, right? So you still need that personal element in a lot of areas. Because if I break down the field of finance, apart from regular banking-related saving products, the exciting part on the equity side definitely need a lot of human touch. Because of the way the markets are, because of the way the things change, because of the way your goals change, your needs change. Machine learning can do certain things, but I still feel that human touch is required in many areas. Going back on that AI related, even in the mutual funds, we see a lot of AI being used, but mostly to do with improving productivity.
Right.
Whether it is data analytics, looking at large set of data and coming to a conclusion, AI is useful. But as far as client servicing is concerned, I still think it is the human element is very, very important.
True, because especially if you're talking about the equity markets, when it's green and when it's going up, everybody is in a good mood. But when it's red and it's going down, that's when you need someone to kind of guide you, to someone to hold your hand, because that's when panic sets in. Sandeep sir, there is, now SEBI is doing a fantastic job in this, in regulating this market, which is giving consumers a lot of peace of mind. But your thoughts, when we are kind of educating first-time investors, because like you just said, the next gen is coming in. Earlier generations were not so privy to maybe mutual funds, or easy to, it wasn't so easy for them to buy shares. How, your thoughts on what's happening in this space, your thoughts on what could be maybe influencing the risk appetite of these first gen investors, and maybe your word of advice to them. Again, I know I've bunked in a few questions.
Yeah, you tend to be able to do three things. But you're right. I think over the last decade or so, especially from possibly 2016 onwards, not only SEBI, but I think the triad of SEBI, RBI, and the government, between them, they've unleashed very, very powerful forces. And of course, we know about things like the India stack, right? Yeah. Information which was privately concealed in bank accounts are possibly now available through the account aggregator framework, right? So I think one of the biggest things that's happened is that there's a massive public infrastructure available on a public platform, governed and available to licensed entities. Using this, I mean, in a way, COVID actually sort of put us on a fast-forward track. Because what happened is that the youth, which was possibly not engaged so well with their schools and colleges, etc., got exposure for the first time to accessibility to international cryptos, to stocks, to mutual funds. All of this came together very fortuitously. What we're seeing now, possibly, is this generation beginning to learn to understand how to maturely manage their money, which is where now you're seeing things like robo-advisory take off, right? So we are possibly in a massive sort of bull run in terms of sentiment, at least, right, over the next decade or so. SEBI, I mean, if you break their actions into three parts, the first part was laissez-faire. Go ahead, do something. We'll see if it's sort of it builds some size. We'll come back after you. The second sort of era, possibly from 2018 to 2022, on things like peer-to-peer lending and fintech and all that, was possibly stop now. Let me understand this. Over the last 2.5, 3 years, SEBI has been extremely, extremely transparent, very, very forward-looking, and has actually patted people on the back. So you've got guidelines, I think, in the last 1.5 years on virtually every aspect of financial services, including people like us. So, for example, how do you give advisory to an average individual? How do you research a stock? How do you do peer-to-peer lending? All possible frameworks that need to be in place, SEBI is very aggressively putting in, which then kills what somebody called the trust deficit, right? Now, you got tech, you got accessibility. The one thing that I didn't know was education, and should I be trusting? You possibly bridged 3 of the 4 gaps, and we are in the process of creating awareness, which bridges the 4th one. And then it becomes a massive momentum ahead.
Fantastic. Mr. Subramanian, one other point I'd like to raise with you. With this technology coming in, it's become easy to both invest and also redeem my mutual fund units. It's become easier for me on a click on my smartphone. I can invest, and at the same time I can sell off my units also. How are you seeing that in the market space? Means, what are some trends? Because if you look at AMFI numbers, yes, SIP numbers are going up, but it depends on the month. Sometimes net inflow and outflow, they keep going up and down both. But what are you seeing from where you are seated as how the investments, and now I'm talking just retail investments in mutual fund space, how are you seeing them develop thanks to technology?
In many ways, it is thanks to technology, it is definitely boosting it. But before that, if you step back and just look at the savings pattern, like between of a typical Indian, we save quite a bit, right? We save close to around 30, 32, 33%. And historically, a large chunk of that went into bonds, bank deposits, insurance, gold and properties. And equity was less. But equity as a concept we have known for a long time. I
Yes.
think the BSE will actually be celebrating its 150th
150th,
year.
right.
So we know equities for a long time, and the savings pattern were also geared up for owning equities. But then we also had number of scams, probably in an era when regulations were not yet formed, not yet mature, and that I think was a big setback. So a whole generation of people were not willing to come into equities. Then as regulations came, as they tightened it, as they made it much more easier for people to invest, and then you add to that the technology and the education being done, you have a clear case where people had to understand equities, and they find that the equity returns are needed if you really want to. The first point which he said, that after you retire, if you don't have enough wealth to last, it's going to be a serious problem. Right? So you had many things coming together, and that's driving it, and we see that trend continuing. There will be months when there could be some outflows, because it all depends on the large tickets also. If they redeem, there could be outflows. But by and large, I think we are in a position where the inflows should be continuously strong. And also, I think the pension money which is coming into the market will probably become much more bigger as you go ahead. So all said, I think the mutual fund industry, the broking industry, anything to do with wealth management, there is still a long way to grow for us in the future.
True, and also because more and more people are becoming more comfortable with this, I think, which, somewhere you could say maybe with all these influencers and SEBI coming down hard on them, well, they have, in a way, yes, unfortunately, people have heard some of the, not the right people on social media and lost money, but at least others have become aware of what this is and kind of become more careful. Mr. Raichuri, I want to ask you one point on, since we are here at the ET Now in Business Conclave, the West edition, of course, the BFSI sector in the West, and especially in Mumbai, it's based. Mumbai is the financial capital of this country. What do you see are some of the key points that make this the trendsetter for innovation, for financial penetration in specifically the BFSI space? Just wanted your inputs on that.
I think it sort of goes back again to government policies to start with, right? I mean, first of all, Western India has always been sort of a very peaceful, outward bound kind of a geography, right? So you had very close ties historically to other geographies close by, even outside of the country. So that sort of required the right policy climate. We have been lucky and fortunate enough that Mumbai, being the heart of most of India, what's happened is that things like, especially after the recent government came in, a lot of initiatives, right? So things like the Gift City initiative, things like the semiconductor policy, right? Clarifying policies on things like drones, etc. So if you go through the website of typically the Maharashtra or the Gujarat government, or even including now the Goa government, you'll find a list of initiatives. So every third month there's an exhaustive circular. Now what's happened is that we always had capital, but we were starved of ideas. The government, the local entrepreneurs, the businessmen have sort of started investing into futuristic ideas. So you're seeing things like EVs take off in India, in the west of India. You're seeing, obviously, the traditional industries do very well, like chemicals, food packaging, etc. You got drones, which was earlier, maybe other geographies, being incrementally set up in the west of India. Fintech has been getting massive investments in this part of the country recently. So it's the availability of capital, meeting the right policy climate. In fact, Mumbai, somebody was talking, I think just before we need, 50% of the demand last year was from Mumbai. So who's demanding this, right? Who's demanding this real estate? It's the youngsters traveling from maybe other cities, gravitating towards the capital, because this is where they get to build their enterprises, right? So the right policy climate, availability of capital, and now, of course, talent moving in search for a global integrated platform, which the West offers.
Sure. Mr. Subramaniam, I would like you to pull out your crystal ball, and if you could future gaze for me, and maybe tell me, it's 2025, so in 2030, where do you see the Indian BFSI space. I don't want to say just the mutual fund industry, but maybe take a little larger view. Where do you think things would be 5 years later if you and I and Mr. Raichura are here on the next edition, the 5-year-on edition of the Business Conclave, what would we be talking about?
No, if your if your GDP is growing at around that 10 to 11% on a nominal basis, right? 6% real GDP growth, 5% inflation, 11%, you can assume that the economy is going to be much larger in the next 5 years. And that will translate into demand for all kind of products, including finance products, whether it is banking, whether it is mutual fund, broking, asset management, and the various asset classes. So 5 years down the line, I would say it will be much larger, but then we may also have many options. For instance, if you look at the regulations right now, right, you have mutual funds on one end, you have the alternative assets, AIF on the other, and in between you have the PMS and you have now the SIF.
Yeah.
So you are actually expanding the market, making it much more reachable, and also catering to different kind of people. So more and more people, I guess, will get into the field of, will take the benefits of these changes, and you will actually find the industry growing at a much rapid pace and probably very, very large. This is one aspect. My personal feeling is, even if I look at where India is placed within Asia, I think if a large bank could come out of Singapore, or if a large bank can come out of Hong Kong or many of these centers, India could also aspire to address that market, right? You not only India, you start addressing the Asian, but then you build the systems accordingly, the regulations accordingly. Talent, I think we have, probably the skill sets we have, and we can invest more in educating the people. But certain big policies will bring about those kind of changes. So it's a very exciting time. I think it will be very large in the next 5 years.
You all are both really convinced, helping me convince not just this audience, but maybe the one that's watching us also outside, that my first statement was definitely wrong. It's not at all a dry subject. It's a very exciting subject. Mr. Raichura, similar question, but more nuanced, because like Mr. Subramaniam said, besides just mutual funds, AIFs, PMS, now SIFs are also there. Are you seeing your customer evolved to, like, somebody who might have just been a beginner, now becoming more nuanced? Somebody at first having come and said, "Mujhe ya to debt fund do, ya hybrid do, ya theek hai, index fund hi lunga." But now someone coming and say, let's do a small cap. And now someone saying, "Tell me about the SIF." Are you seeing that evolution of the customer as well?
Oh yes, absolutely. But that's essentially where I want to draw a line. We have traditionally grown in terms of products, right? आपको insurance चाहिए क्या? आपको mutual funds चाहिए क्या? I think fintech is bridging that divide brilliantly. Because what does fintech actually do? Fintech says, I've got all these products, but आपकी need क्या है? Correct? And I think the challenge for us as a nation, or for any large nation for that matter, is, do we really know the needs of our customers, right? And therefore, for example, at Prabhudas Leader, we've been sort of wanting to use some bit of AI, but provide solutions, productized solutions, right? Which give you sustainability, which are scalable, so which means things like financial inclusion. Remember in the background, what Mr. Subramanian was saying, a couple of things are happening, right? You've got the central bank launching a currency very soon, CBDC. Right?
Yes.
Regulations would possibly allow for things like fractional shares. गांव में एक आदमी ₹1 का रिलायंस खरीदना है तो खरीद पाएगा, right? So there are those regulatory developments. There is technology. The one thing that we have to figure out as a nation is, किसी को अगर retire होना है, उसका एक lifestyle है, उस lifestyle को preserve करने के लिए 8% चाहिए. Do I have a solution which sort of takes him on that life journey, rather than me attempting to sell him products and leaving it to his fortunes to sort of take it to retirement? Right?
Wow, that would be definitely. So that would definitely be momentous, iconic iconic moment there, and definitely a lot of exciting options there. So I think we're just about out of time, but I will leave the audience with this thought, that as I started off playing devil's advocate, saying that, finance kind of dry subject, but really there's a sea of options there. And I personally do believe one thing, which is that, all our educational life, school, colleges, we've been taught to earn a living. It's important we take a few steps to manage that money that we are earning through our living, and that's where, you know, there is a whole sea of options there. Thank you so much, Mr. Raichura, for your time. Thank you, Mr. Subramaniam, for your time. Back to you, Pooja. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for my two panelists.
All right. What a fascinating back and forth. If we could have Pooja Sethi on stage to please present our panelists a token of our appreciation for being here. A lot of rich takeaways emerged from that conversation, ladies and gentlemen, and we want to thank our panelists for digging deep into their personal and their professional journeys and sharing those insights with us. Can we have the mementos on stage, please, and present our panel with a token of appreciation? Covering the entire spectrum here at the ETNow.in Business Conclave and Awards West Edition 2025. All the sectors of relevance, and celebrating and saluting your contributions to those sectors in the process. All right. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll move on. All right, a round of applause to the entire panel, please, ladies and gentlemen, as we move on.